My name is Kenya Matthews. I'm 32 years old, and this morning I'm sitting at my dining room table with a split lip and a bruise blooming across my left cheek like some sick, twisted flower. Last night, my sister's husband, my own brother-in-law, backhanded Lena so hard she tasted blood. And she didn't say a word. She never does. She just stood in her Atlanta kitchen, flinching every time the ice touched her skin, trying to hide the swelling under concealer. But this morning, when Daniel Reeves came downstairs expecting her to serve his coffee with her head bowed like she always does, his smirk vanished the moment he saw who was already seated at my table. The look on his face, that flash of confusion melting into raw terror, was almost worth every sleepless night I've spent wondering if I should have seen the signs sooner. Before I tell you what happened next, if you believe no woman should ever have to hide a bruise under makeup, please hit that like button right now and comment below what city you're watching from. Because I need to know I'm not the only one who stood between a monster and the woman he swore to love. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Not the monasteric charm of Charleston, but the gleaming high-rises of Buckhead and quiet tree-lined suburbs where abuse hides behind Tesla keys and perfect Instagram stories. I'm a criminal defense attorney, been in courtrooms for 8 years, defending the accused, dissecting lies, watching monsters wear suits and smiles. I never thought I'd have to build a case against the man married to my own flesh and blood. Lena and I are identical twins, same eyes, same laugh, same childhood memories of switching places to prank teachers or dodge bullies. But while I grew louder, sharper, ready to throw a punch if needed, Lena grew softer. She sees beauty in broken glass, in rusted metal, in silence. That's why she married Daniel. That's why she stayed. Daniel's 35, a corporate finance manager at a Fortune 500 firm. On LinkedIn, he's driven, family-oriented, values integrity. At galas, he donates big and poses with senators. At home? He's the man who mocks Lena's art as hobby nonsense, who cancelled her gallery show because wives don't embarrass their husbands, who last night grabbed her by the wrist, shoved her against the fridge, and said, "You'll learn your place if I have to carve it into your skin." This morning, my dining room table looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. I used my wedding china, the set I bought myself with my first big bonus because, let's be real, I've never been the marrying kind. White plates with delicate gold trim. My grandmother's lace tablecloth, stitched by her hands during the Great Depression. Fresh gardenias from my patio, the same flowers Lena carried on her wedding day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd cooked a southern breakfast worthy of a Sunday feature, cheese grits with sharp white cheddar, scrambled eggs fluffy and golden, thick-cut bacon, and buttermilk biscuits I made from scratch using my red KitchenAid, the one I bought myself after Daniel told Lena she wasted money on a new camera lens. The smell filled the house. Butter. Coffee. And something else, resolve. The quiet, steely kind only forged in courtrooms and childhood alleyways. I sat at the head of the table, back straight, hands folded. Wore my navy suit, the one I buried my mother in 3 years ago. Pearl earrings. Hair in a tight bun. I looked in the mirror before sitting down and barely recognized myself. Not because of sadness, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't just Kenya the lawyer. I was Kenya the sister. The reckoning. Lena sat across from me in her favorite lavender dress, her bruise uncovered, her lip split. Brave girl. I heard Daniel upstairs, the shower running, his alarm beeping. The same sound for years. I sat and waited. My heart pounded, but my hands? Steady. After all the fear, the guilt, the nights I should have called her, my hands were finally steady. At 8:05 a.m., I heard his footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Confident. The walk of a man who thought he'd won. He walked in wearing a polo and khakis, hair damp, eyes scanning the spread, then landing on Lena's face. On the bruise. On the split lip. And you know what he did? He smiled. Not with shame. With satisfaction. Like he'd finally broken her. He pulled out a chair, picked up a biscuit, examined it like a trophy. Took a bite. Crumbs fell onto my grandmother's tablecloth. Then he said it. You finally learned, huh? A little discipline goes a long way. Look, you even remembered how to be a wife. He laughed. Actually laughed. This is how it should have been all along, baby. You just needed to understand who's in charge. I didn't flinch. Didn't speak. Because at exactly 8:12 a.m., the doorbell rang. That simple sound, ding-dong, cut through the morning like a verdict. I watched his face change. The smile faltered. His jaw tightened. Who the hell is that? He dropped the biscuit onto the plate, irritation flashing across his face like a warning flare. I told you, no company on weekends. Kenya, who the hell did you invite without asking me? I stood slowly. Deliberately. Smoothed the lapels of my navy suit, the one I wore to my mother's funeral. Looked him dead in the eyes. I invited them, I said. My voice was calm. Cold. And you're going to sit there and wait. I walked to the front door. Every step felt like I was walking out of a cage I'd spent 3 years building for myself. I could feel his eyes on my back, confusion twisting into something sharper. Anxiety. Maybe fear. Good. It was about time he felt what Lena and I had lived with for years. I opened the door. And there they were. Samantha San Delgado in full Atlanta PD uniform, her badge glinting in the morning sun. Evelyn Carter, our aunt, who raised us after Mom died, wearing her Sunday church dress, eyes red but spine straight. And Lena, my twin, standing slightly behind them, her fingers clutching her camera bag like it was the only thing holding her together. They looked at my face, at the bruise Daniel had put on Lena last night, now carefully transferred to my own cheek with makeup for the cameras hidden around the room. At the split lip I'd given myself with a quick bite, just enough to sell it. And in all their eyes, pure, quiet rage. But they didn't say a word. They just followed me inside. When Daniel saw them walk in, I swear, his skin went from tan to ash in half a breath. The biscuit slipped from his fingers, hit the china with a soft clink, then rolled across my grandmother's lace tablecloth, crumbling into dust. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. He looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw real fear in his eyes. Not anger. Not entitlement. Fear. Kenya, what? His voice cracked like dry wood. What is this? What's going on? I didn't sit. I stood at the head of the table, hands at my sides. Evelyn and Lena stood to my right. Sam stepped to my left, her hand resting casually near her cuffs. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. This, I said, voice steady as a verdict, is the consequence you've been running from for 3 years, Daniel. This is your reckoning. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. To really understand how we got here, to understand why I did what I did, you need to know who Daniel used to be. And who he became. You need to know that Lena didn't always flinch when he raised his voice. That I didn't always sleep with my phone under my pillow, ready to call 911. There was a time when his laugh filled our kitchen like music. On my counter, there's a digital photo frame. Lena gave it to me 2 Christmases ago. It cycles through old shots automatically. This morning, while I was cooking that breakfast, while I was wiring the hidden mic into the chandelier, those photos kept flashing. Each one cut deeper than the last. The first, our joint 30th birthday party. Lena and I in matching red dresses, arms around each other, laughing. Daniel standing behind her, hand on her waist, grinning like he'd won the lottery. He had. He married the quiet twin, the artist, the dreamer. The one who believed love fixed everything. Next, Daniel receiving Rising Leader Award at his firm's gala. Sharp navy suit, Rolex gleaming. Lena beside him in a silver gown, holding her camera, his gift to her, so she could quit that hobby nonsense and document real things. She never used it that night. Just held it like a shield. Another, our Thanksgiving, 2 years ago. Evelyn carving the turkey. Daniel carving compliments. Your sister's so lucky to have you, Kenya. You're the strong one. Lena's, delicate. As if that was a compliment. As if fragility was a virtue. We had a good life. Or we pretended to. A modern townhouse in Buckhead. Friday dinners at that overpriced seafood spot. Love notes in Lena's bag, "You're my perfect wife." But only when the neighbors were watching. I'm telling you this so you understand. I didn't marry a monster. I married a good man who became a monster. And watching that transformation, day by day, choice by choice, was the most painful thing I've ever lived through. Worse than the bruise on Lena's cheek. Worse than the split lip she tried to hide with concealer. Watching someone you love vanish, replaced by someone who makes your pulse spike when his car pulls into the driveway, that's a special kind of hell. It started 3 years ago. That's when everything cracked open. That's when the man Lena married began dying, and something darker took his place. It began with an accusation. A female client, 24 years old, an intern at his firm. She accused Daniel of inappropriate advances. Said he'd cornered her in the office after hours, made suggestive comments, brushed against her by accident too many times. The complaint landed like a bomb. One day, Daniel was a rising star at his firm, Reeves Financial Solutions. The next, he was placed on administrative review. Lena knew it wasn't true. She swore it. Daniel would never, she kept saying. And honestly? I believed her. Back then, Daniel was polished, respectful, even protective of female colleagues. He quoted Maya Angelou at team retreats, "For God's sake." The firm investigated. HR, outside counsel, even the legal ethics board. 2 months later, they cleared him completely. Found texts from the intern to a friend, "He gave me a bad eval just 'cause I wouldn't flirt back. Watch me ruin his perfect life." She was fired. The case closed. Daniel was reinstated. But the damage? That never closed. You know how it is in the corporate world, especially in Atlanta's elite finance circles. Once the rumor's out, innocence doesn't matter. Perception does. Clients quietly pulled their accounts. Partners stopped inviting him to golf weekends. The firm promoted him to a satellite office in Duluth, out of sight, out of mind. From leading multi-million deals to reviewing spreadsheets in a windowless cube. His reputation, the thing he'd built since business school, was ruined. And I watched him shatter under it. At first, I thought he'd rebound. Daniel was sharp, ambitious. He'd claw his way back. But then came the drinking. 1 glass of bourbon after work to unwind. Then 2. Then the whole bottle by midnight. He'd come home in his $2,000 suit, tie loose, pour a drink before even taking off his watch. The anger followed. Not right away. First, just silence. Staring into space like he'd lost his own reflection. But sadness curdled into bitterness. And bitterness needed a target. That target was Lena. It started small, so subtle I almost missed it. If he'd posted more on social about my promotion, people would see I'm not what they think. You barely defended me at that dinner party. Evelyn even looked at you like you doubted me. You're supposed to be my wife. Act like it. It was always her fault. Not the intern who lied. Not the firm that exiled him. Her, for not being louder, prouder, enough. Then came the control. He suggested she stop freelancing. "Photography's not stable," he'd say. "Let me handle our finances." He took her debit card. Gave her $50 a week for groceries, art supplies, everything. When she protested, he said, "You don't bring in real money. My salary carries this life. So I manage it." And Lena? God, she believed it was temporary. Just stress. Just time. He isolated her next. Anytime she mentioned coffee with a friend, going to gossip about your poor victim husband again? She stopped going to gallery openings. Stopped calling me as much. Even skipped Aunt Evelyn's Sunday dinners. She shrank her world to their townhouse, just to keep the peace. About 2 years ago, the first real explosion happened. Lena made his favorite, braised short ribs, garlic mashed potatoes. He came home reeking of whiskey, didn't say hello. She asked how his day was. He grunted. Then, the ribs are overcooked. You can't even follow a recipe now? She apologized, offered to make something else. That's when he grabbed his plate and hurled it at the wall. Porcelain shattered. Rich gravy and meat slid down the marble backsplash, pooling on the floor. He stared at the mess, then at her. Clean it. And walked upstairs. She scrubbed the wall for an hour. Picked up every shard with bare hands. And told herself, it's the pressure. He'll go back to being Daniel. But he never did. He looked at the mess, then at Lena, and said, clean it up. Then he walked upstairs without another word. Lena stood frozen. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then she got the paper towels. Scrubbed the wall until the gravy stain vanished. Picked up every shard of porcelain, her fingers trembling. And she told herself, it's the stress. It's the pressure. It's not really him. Not the man I married. But it happened again. And again. Not daily. Not even weekly, but often enough that she learned to live on eggshells. She started reading his moods by the sound of his car door. A soft click? He was calm. A slam? She'd disappear into the darkroom before he even stepped inside. She memorized the landmines. Don't mention his old firm. Don't bring up the internship scandal. Don't ask about work if his tie was loose. Don't breathe too loud. About 18 months ago, it turned physical. Not a hit, yet. But close. They argued over money. Lena had used $45 from her freelance earnings to get her hair done. No big deal, except she didn't ask permission first. Daniel found the receipt. You're selfish, he snarled. Spend my money on your vanity like everyone else who betrayed me? She turned to leave. Said she didn't want to fight. He grabbed her arm, hard. Fingers dug into her flesh like claws. Yanked her back. You don't walk away when I'm talking to you. His face inches from hers. Bourbon on his breath. Eyes black with rage. He held her for what felt like forever. When he let go, 5 finger-shaped bruises bloomed on her forearm. She wore long sleeves for a week. Told me, it's just chilly in Atlanta this July. That night, she packed a bag. Toiletries, passport, her favorite camera. I saw it when I called to check on her. Go, I whispered. Just go. But before she could zip the suitcase, Daniel walked in. Saw the bag. His face went pale, not angry. Panicked. He dropped to his knees. Lena, please, I don't know what came over me. It'll never happen again. I swear. He wrapped his arms around her waist, sobbing into her stomach like a child. And Lena, God, forgive her, unpacked the bag. Stroked his hair. Whispered, it's okay. We'll get through this. Because that's what loving wives do, right? Stand by your man when he breaks? But it did happen again. Of course it did. She'd shown him, there are no consequences. Hurting her equals tears, then forgiveness, then silence. So the lines kept shifting. He grabbed her harder next time. Shoved her once, just enough to make her stumble into the fridge. Every time, apologies. Promises. I'll change. And every time, she believed him, not because he meant it, but because she needed to believe the man she loved was still in there. The verbal abuse worsened. He'd sneer, freelance photographer? Cute hobby. At least I used to do something that mattered. Compared her to real wives, women who knew their place, who didn't embarrass their husbands, who actually took care of themselves. That last one cut deep. She stopped looking in mirrors. Started wearing oversized hoodies. Felt herself shrinking, voice, posture, spirit. About a year ago, she tried to leave again. Found a tiny studio near Little Five Points, 400 square feet, big windows, rent $1,100. She pictured herself there, morning light, coffee, silence. No fear. She filled out the application during lunch. That night, Daniel found it in her purse. Stood in the bedroom doorway, rope clinging to her wet skin, as he held the paper like a verdict. What is this? His voice ice cold. She swallowed. Daniel. I can't do this anymore. I need space. Space? He laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You want space from your husband? After everything I've been through? After everything I've lost? You want to abandon me, too? I'm not abandoning you, Lena said, voice shaking but controlled. I just think we both need time to figure things out. Maybe if we... You're not leaving. Daniel stepped into the room, blocking the door. You're not going anywhere. You're my wife. You made a vow, for better or worse. And just because things got worse doesn't mean you get to run. Daniel, please. Where are you even gonna go? His voice dropped, cold, mocking. Back to Kenya's? Think she'll welcome you after you ruined your own life? He advanced. She backed up, until her spine hit the wall. Who's gonna believe you over me? He hissed. What'll you tell people? My husband raised his voice. He's mean sometimes? Boo-hoo. His breath reeked of whiskey. His eyes, empty. You're not leaving. You belong here. You belong to me. Understand? She couldn't speak. Just nodded. He snatched the rental application from her hand and walked out. She heard the paper tear, sharp, deliberate. Then the flutter of pieces hitting the trash. She sat on the edge of the bed. And realized, I'm trapped. That the man who once left her notes, "You're my light, Lena," now saw her as property. The months that followed were the darkest of her life. She went to work, edited photos, cooked silent dinners, and vanished into herself. Stopped laughing. Stopped looking in mirrors. Became a ghost in her own home. Aunt Evelyn called weekly, "Lena, Beta, you sound off. Is Daniel okay?" "Just tired," she'd say. "Work's heavy." Evelyn didn't push, but the worry never left her voice. Then there was Sam Delgado, Kenya's friend, an Atlanta PD detective. 6 months ago, she spotted Lena at Whole Foods, wearing a turtleneck in August. Sam stopped her. Looked deep into her eyes. "You okay?" "Just a cold," Lena lied. Sam pressed a card into her palm. "Call. Anytime." Lena tucked it into her wallet and ignored it. Because things only got worse. Daniel stopped pretending. No more apologies after he grabbed her wrist, shoved her against the fridge, or cornered her in the garage. Just silence. Like cruelty was routine. Like this was marriage. She started believing it. Maybe I deserve this. Maybe I failed him so badly, his rage is justified. 3 months ago, he began coming home at 1 a.m., reeking of bourbon and cigarettes. He'd quit smoking a decade ago. Now, he'd stumble through the house, crash into furniture, pass out in his suit. The bedroom smelled of sweat, smoke, and something darker. If rage had a scent, this was it. Last month, she moved to the guest room. My back hurts, she told him. Firmer mattress helps. He didn't argue. Didn't care. And honestly? She was relieved. No more lying beside him, wondering, will tonight be the night he hits me? Then came last night, the night everything shattered. She was in the kitchen at 11:47 p.m., making chamomile tea. Wearing her burgundy silk robe, the one Kenya gave her 3 Christmases ago. Embroidered jasmine flowers on the cuffs. She remembers thinking, how strange, to wear something so beautiful while feeling so broken. The kettle hissed. Then, his car. Engine off. Silence. Her breath caught. Car door slammed. Hard. Her stomach dropped. Keys fumbled at the lock. Missed twice. Finally clicked. The door opened, and she could tell from his stagger he was very drunk, more than usual. He walked in. The smell hit first: bourbon, cigarettes, sweat. Shirt untucked. Eyes bloodshot. He looked at her, and in his gaze was something she'd never seen before. Not anger. Not frustration. Hatred. He didn't speak. Just walked to the counter and saw the envelope. Another apartment application. Cheaper. One she could afford on her freelance income alone. She'd left it out. Too tired to hide it. Maybe part of her wanted him to find it. He picked it up. Read it. His face shifted, confusion understanding pure rage. What the hell is this? His voice low. Dangerous. Daniel, An apartment? You're trying to leave me again? He tore the paper, once, twice, again, until it was confetti. Threw it at her. It fluttered down like ash. You're not going anywhere, he said, ice in his voice. You're mine. You don't get to leave. Not like everyone else. I'm not abandoning you, she said, voice cracking. I'm trying to save myself. He stepped closer. You're destroying me. My career's gone. My reputation's gone. And now you want to take my wife, my home? Daniel, please, she raised her hands. He grabbed her shoulders, fingers dug in, painfully hard, and shook her. You're not leaving. Spit hit her cheek. She gasped. Tried to pull away. Her hips slammed into the counter. Pain shot through her side. Look what you made me do, he panted. This is your fault. If you'd just be a good wife, none of this would happen. Tears streamed down her face. I am a good wife. I stood by you through everything, the lies, the anger, the drinking. But I can't anymore. You're killing me, Daniel. Can't you see that? And that's when he did it. His hand came up, she thought he'd grab her again. But it kept going. Crack. The back of his hand slammed into her cheek. Her head snapped sideways. Lip split on her tooth. Blood flooded her mouth, metallic, warm. The pain was sharp. Immediate. But worse was the truth. He finally hit me in the face. She touched her lip. Saw blood on her fingers. Looked at him. This wasn't Daniel. This was a stranger wearing his face. He stared at his own hand, no regret. No tears. Just cold emptiness. Clean yourself up, he muttered. You're bleeding on the floor. Then he walked out. Like he'd commented on the weather. She stood there, blood dripping onto her silk robe, and felt something break. But not her spirit. The chains did. The chains of hope. Of fear. Of love means enduring. They shattered. And in their place, clarity. The door opened, and I could tell from the way he staggered that he was very drunk, more than usual. He came into the kitchen, and the smell hit me first: bourbon, cigarettes, sweat. His shirt was untucked, collar crooked. His eyes, bloodshot, hollow. He looked at me, and there was something in his gaze I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not frustration. Hatred. He didn't speak. Just walked to the counter and saw the envelope. The apartment application. A studio near Little 5 Points. $950 per month. One I could afford on my freelance income alone. I'd printed it out and left it there. Too tired to hide it. Too tired to pretend I was happy. Maybe part of me wanted him to find it. Maybe part of me needed this to end, one way or another. He picked it up. Glanced inside. His face shifted, confusion understanding pure rage. What the hell is this? His voice was low. Dangerous. Daniel, What the hell is this, Lena? Louder now. An apartment? You're trying to leave me again? I can't do this anymore, I said. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. I can't live like this. Can't keep walking on eggshells. Can't keep being afraid in my own home. I'm leaving, Daniel. I'm done. The words hung in the air. For a second, I thought, maybe he'll let me go. Maybe he finally sees we've destroyed each other. That there's nothing left to save. But then his face twisted. He tore the application once, twice, again, until it was confetti in his hands. He threw it at me. The pieces fluttered down like ash. You're not going anywhere, he said, voice ice cold. I've told you this before. You're mine. You don't get to leave. You don't get to abandon me like everyone else did. I'm not abandoning you, I said, desperation cracking my voice. I'm trying to save myself. Can't you see what's happened to us? We're destroying each other. No, he stepped closer. You're destroying me. My career's gone. My reputation's gone. And now you want to take the one thing I have left, my wife, my home. Daniel, please. I raised my hands, palms out. But he grabbed my shoulders. Fingers dug in, painfully hard. You're not leaving, he shouted, spit hitting my cheek. Do you hear me? You're hurting me. Daniel, stop. You're hurting me. I tried to pull away. He shook me harder. My head snapped back and forth. Dizziness. Nausea. I stumbled backward, hips slammed into the counter. Pain shot through my side. Look what you made me do, he panted. This is your fault. If you'd just stay in line, if you'd just be a good wife, none of this would happen. I am a good wife. Tears streamed down my face. I stood by you through everything, the lies, the drinking, the rage. I took your cruelty and stayed. But I can't anymore. You're killing me, Daniel. Can't you see that? You're killing who I am. And that's when he did it. That's when he crossed the line that could never be uncrossed. His hand came up. For a split second, I thought he'd grab me again. But it kept going. Crack. The back of his hand slammed into my cheek, a sound like thunder in the silent kitchen. My head whipped sideways. Lip split on my tooth. Blood flooded my mouth, metallic, warm. The pain was sharp. Immediate. But worse was the realization. He finally hit me in the face. After 3 years of grabbing, shoving, cornering. He'd struck me like I was nothing. I touched my lip. Saw blood on my fingers. Looked at him. This wasn't Daniel. This was a stranger wearing his face empty, cruel, unrecognizable. This wasn't my husband. This was a stranger who looked like him, but had none of his soul left. He stood there, breathing hard, staring at his own hand like he couldn't believe what it had done. But he didn't apologize. Didn't fall to his knees crying like before. He just looked at me, face cold. Empty. Clean yourself up, he said. You're bleeding on the floor. Then he turned and walked out. Like he'd just commented on the rain. Like he hadn't just shattered everything we'd ever been. I heard his footsteps go upstairs. The bedroom door click shut. I stood in the kitchen, blood dripping from my split lip onto my burgundy silk robe. And felt something inside me break. But it wasn't my spirit. It was the chains. The chains of hoping he'd change. The chains of fearing I couldn't survive without him. The chains of believing love meant enduring everything. They snapped. And in their place, clarity. Cold. Sharp. Unforgiving. I walked to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back had a swollen lip, blood on her chin, a bruise blooming on her cheek. But her eyes. They were awake. I washed my face with cold water. It stung. I welcomed the pain. It meant I was still alive. I pressed a cold cloth to my mouth until the bleeding stopped. Then I went back to the kitchen and made a decision. The kind that changes everything. I wouldn't call 911, not yet. I wouldn't run to Kenya's in the middle of the night. Because I knew Daniel. He'd twist it. Call it an accident. Cry. Apologize. Promise rehab. And if I showed up at her door at 1 a.m. with no proof, no witnesses, it'd be my word against his. And in Atlanta's elite circles? His word still carried weight. He was the wronged executive, the victim of a bitter intern's lie. People would say I was overreacting. That marriages have rough patches. No. This needed to be undeniable. I needed witnesses. I needed proof. I needed people who'd see my face, hear my truth, and not be charmed by his tears. So I started planning. Right there, at midnight, with a split lip and a bruising cheek. I planned his reckoning. And mine. Because I knew this meant the end. Of my marriage. Of the life I'd built. Of the woman I'd been for 3 years. But she was already dead. She died the second his hand hit my face. Now? I was building something new, from the ashes. First, I took out my phone. Hands shaking, but voice steady. I called Kenya. It rang 4 times. Lena? It's midnight. What's wrong? Her voice sharp with alarm. I told her everything. The drinking, the control, the isolation, the grabbing, the shoving. And tonight. The slap. She didn't interrupt. Just listened, soft gasps, muffled sobs. When I finished, silence. Then, I'm getting in the car. Right now. No, I said. Not tonight. Be here at 8 a.m. Can you do that? What are you planning? Justice, I said. I'm planning justice. I'll be there, she whispered. I'll leave at 5. The second call was harder. I scrolled to Evelyn Carter, our aunt, who raised us, who married us off in her garden. A woman who believed in till death do us part, but also in human dignity. She answered on the second ring. Lena, Beta? Everything okay? No, Auntie, I said. It's not. I need you to just listen. Can you do that? Of course, John. And I told Evelyn too. Not everything, 3 years wouldn't fit in a midnight call, but enough. About Daniel's rage, the drinking, the control, about tonight, about the bruise blooming on my cheek and the split lip I couldn't stop touching. About how I'd realized, if I didn't act, there might come a night I didn't walk away at all. When I finished, Aunt Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, voice thick but steady. What do you need from me, John? Be at my house tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. I need you to be a witness. I need you to see what he's done, and stand with me when I do what I have to do. I'll be there, she said without hesitation. And I'll bring every ounce of truth our family carries with me. You're not alone, Lena. You never were. The third call was harder. I pulled San Delgado's card from my wallet, the one she'd pressed into my palm 6 months ago at Whole Foods. I'd kept it hidden, like a secret lifeline. I dialed. It rang and rang. Just as I thought she wouldn't answer. Delgado. Sam, it's Lena. Lena Matthews. A pause. Lena? It's 1 a.m. What's wrong? Everything. And I told her everything. Sam shifted instantly into detective mode. Where is he now? Asleep upstairs. Are you safe right now? Do I need to send a unit? I'm safe, for now. But I need you here tomorrow. 8 a.m. I'm confronting him, with witnesses, then filing charges. Lena, I should come now. I can arrest him tonight. No, I said firmly. This is my house. My life. And I need to do this my way. She sighed. 8 a.m. I'll be there. But if anything changes before then, call 911. Promise me. I promise. I hung up. Glanced at the clock, 12:58 a.m. 7 hours until they arrived. 7 hours to turn this house from my prison into my courtroom. I started cooking. It sounds strange, I know, but I needed my hands busy, my mind focused. And there was something symbolic in it. For 3 years, I'd made meals he criticized, ignored, or, tonight, threw against the wall. But this breakfast would be different. The last I'd ever cook for him. And it would be perfect. I took out my red Le Creuset Dutch oven, a wedding gift from Daniel's aunt. We'd never used it. Too nice for every day, he'd said. Well, today was not every day. I made cheese grits from scratch, the way Kenya and I learned from Nanny. Sharp white cheddar melted in at the end until creamy and rich. While they simmered, I made buttermilk biscuits, cut with our great-grandmother's tin cutter, worn smooth by generations. I used my KitchenAid mixer, the red one I bought myself last Christmas with cash I'd hidden from Daniel, $20 at a time. I rolled the dough, cut the circles, slid them into the oven. The smell filled the house, butter, buttermilk, resolve. I fried thick-cut bacon, laid each strip with care in my cast-iron skillet. Listened to it sizzle like judgment. Scrambled eggs with cream, just how Mom taught us. Sliced strawberries and cantaloupe, arranged them on a platter. Programmed my Breville coffee maker to brew at 7:45 a.m. Everything had to be ready. Around 3 a.m., I stared at the bruise in the bathroom mirror. Opened my makeup drawer. Pulled up my $40 Dermablend concealer, the one I used to hide fingerprint bruises on my arms. I held it. I could cover the bruise. Make it easier for him. Less shocking for them. Then I walked to the kitchen trash and dropped the whole tube in. No more hiding. No more protecting him. They needed to see. Evelyn. Sam. Kenya. And Daniel most of all. He needed to see, in cold daylight, with no bourbon to blame, exactly what he'd done. Then I threw it in the trash. The whole tube, $1.40 gone. Because no more hiding. No more softening the truth for him. No more shielding him from what he'd done. They needed to see. Evelyn needed to see. Sam needed to see. Kenya needed to see. And Daniel, most of all. He needed to see, in cold daylight, with no bourbon to blame, no rage to excuse. Just the raw, undeniable truth written on my face. Around 4 a.m., I did something else. Something I'd planned for weeks but never had the nerve to do. I'd ordered a Ring doorbell camera online. It had sat in its box in my closet for a week. I pulled it out. Read the instructions. Fumbled through the setup, my hands shaking, eyes blurry with exhaustion, but I got it done. Mounted it beside the front door. Downloaded the app. Linked it to my phone. From now on, everything at this door would be recorded. Every word. Every threat. Every lie. I couldn't change the past, but I could document the future. I also propped my iPad on the dining room bookshelf, angled just right, hidden behind a row of art books, but capturing the whole table. Recording. Silent. Waiting. I needed proof. In case he claimed I was overreacting. In case he said it was an accident. I'd have video. Witnesses. Evidence. I'd have everything. By 5 a.m., the sky shifted from black to deep indigo. I set the table with our wedding china, the set we'd kept wrapped in tissue, too special for every day. Well, this was special. The most important breakfast of my life. I spread out Nanny's lace tablecloth, white, hand-embroidered, every stitch stitched with love. I wondered what she'd think. She'd been married 52 years, to a man who brought her tea every morning, who never raised his voice. She'd understand. I think she'd be proud. I arranged gardenias in the center, fresh from my patio. The same flowers I'd carried on my wedding day. Promises made. Promises broken. Around 6 a.m., I went upstairs. Walked past the bedroom. Heard him snoring, that thick, wet sound of a man drowning in whiskey. Used to sound like safety. Now it just sounded ugly. I went to the guest room, my sanctuary for the past month. Showered. Washed away dried blood, salt from tears, the stink of fear. Under the hot water, I finally let myself feel it all. Grief for the marriage I'd lost. Terror for what I was about to do. Relief that it would finally end. Guilt that I'd stayed so long. Then I touched my split lip. And knew I hadn't given up too soon. I'd held on too long. I got out. Dried off. Dressed. Chose my navy dress, the one I wore to Mom's funeral. Felt right. This was a funeral, too. For Lena, the silent wife. For the woman who shrank to make him comfortable. I was burying her today. I put on Nanny's pearl earrings. Pulled my hair into a tight bun. Looked in the mirror. Bruise, dark purple, spreading from cheekbone to jaw. Lip, swollen, split, crusted with dried blood. I looked like a survivor. Because that's what I was. And it was time to stop pretending otherwise. By 7:30 a.m., I sat at the head of the table. Food ready. Coffee brewing. Everything in place. All I had to do was wait. At 7:50, his alarm beeped upstairs. That same grating sound that woke me for 3 years. He hit snooze. 5 minutes later, silence. I heard the bed creak. The bathroom door close. The shower run. He took his time. No idea what waited downstairs. At 8:05, footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, confident. The walk of a man who thought he'd won. Who expected me cowering, crying, or gone. He walked in. I watched his face shift. Confusion, surprise, calculation, satisfaction. That smile spread like poison. The one that said, finally, she broke. He sat. Took a biscuit. And said it. You finally learned, huh? A little discipline. And look, you remember how to be a wife? He laughed. Actually laughed. This is how it should have been all along, baby. You just needed to understand who's in charge. I sat in my funeral dress, split lip bleeding again, bruise throbbing. And I waited. Waited for the sound that would change everything. At exactly 8:12, the doorbell rang. Ding dong. Sharp. Final. I stood up. I smoothed my dress. And I said, I invited them. I walked to the door and opened it. And there they were. Sam Delgado in full Atlanta PD uniform, her badge glinting in the morning sun. Evelyn Carter in her Sunday best, face etched with sorrow and resolve. And Kenya, my twin, tears already streaming down her cheeks, her jaw clenched like she was holding back a storm. They looked at me, really looked. Saw the bruise. Saw the split lip. And I saw the rage flash in their eyes. Not wild. Not chaotic. Righteous. Protective. Final. We walked into the dining room together. I'll never forget the look on Daniel's face. All the color drained, tan skin turned ashen. The biscuit slipped from his fingers, hit the china with a soft clink, then crumbled. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't angry. Wasn't smug. He was afraid. Lena? His voice strangled. What is this? I didn't sit. Stood at the head of the table, flanked by Kenya, Evelyn, and a detective. My back ached from slamming into the counter. My face throbbed. My heart shattered. But I stood tall. Because I had to. This, I said, voice cold and clear, is the consequence you've been running from for 3 years, Daniel. This is your reckoning. Then I told him everything. In front of witnesses. How the drinking started after the intern's lie. How the anger curdled into control. How he isolated me, mocked my work, took my cards, my freedom, my voice. How he grabbed, shoved, cornered, until last night. Last night, I said, tears falling but voice steady, you crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You looked me in the eye, and hit me. Then walked away like I was nothing. He tried to speak. Lena, please, let me explain. No, I cut him off. No more excuses. No more blaming bourbon or stress or me. You did this. You chose this. Now live with it. Evelyn stepped forward. Daniel, she said, voice trembling with grief, I've known you since your wedding. Held you when your father died. And today, as your aunt and as a woman who raised these girls, I tell you, what you've done is unforgivable, unless you truly repent. And right now, I only see a man who's been caught. His face crumpled. Aunt Evelyn, please, it's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, Sam said, stepping forward. Professional. Unmoved. Mr. Reeves, I'm Detective Sam Delgado, Atlanta PD. Ms. Matthews has reported an assault last night at approximately midnight, leaving visible injuries. She gestured to my face. She will be filing formal charges. You can't be serious. Daniel turned to me. Lena, I'm your husband. This is private. It stopped being private, I said, when your hand hit my face. When I tasted my own blood, because of you. Kenya's voice cracked like thunder. How could you? She loved you. Stood by you through lies, exile, humiliation. And this is how you repay her? Kenya, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, she shot back. I understand she spent 3 years hiding bruises, shrinking herself, making excuses for your cruelty. I understand she nearly let you erase her. But that ends today. Daniel looked around, panic rising. No escape. No charm. No tears would fix this. The evidence was on my face. The witnesses were present. The law stood ready. Lena, please, he whispered, voice breaking. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I'll get help. Stop drinking. Do anything. Just, don't destroy my life. I'm not destroying your life, I said softly. You did that yourself. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. For once. Sam pulled out her cuffs. Mr. Reeves, stand up. Hands behind your back. No. He recoiled. You can't arrest me. I have a job. People will find out. You should have thought of that, Sam said calmly, before you put your hands on your wife. He looked at me one last time. And in that second, I saw it. He realized I wouldn't save him. The woman who once unpacked her suitcase for his tears? She was gone. In her place stood a survivor, with a split lip, a bruised cheek, and a spine of steel. Stand up, Sam said again. Daniel rose, shaking. Placed his hands behind his back. The click of the cuffs was the loudest sound in the room. The moment he realized I wasn't going to save him. That I wouldn't back down, wouldn't soften, wouldn't make excuses for his cruelty. He saw the truth. The woman who used to unpack her suitcase at his tears? She was gone. In her place stood someone new. Split lip, bruised cheek, spine of steel. "Stand up," Sam said again. Daniel rose slowly, shakily. Placed his hands behind his back. Sam cuffed him. The click of metal was the loudest sound in the room. She read him his rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." I watched it happen. Watched my husband of 3 years arrested in our dining room. And I felt everything at once. Grief for the love we'd lost. Relief that it was finally over. Fear of the unknown. Guilt that it had come to this. But most of all, freedom. For the first time in 3 years, I could breathe. As Sam led him toward the door, he turned. "You're going to regret this," he whispered, voice low, meant only for me. "You'll be alone in this big house, with nothing but memories. And you'll regret it." I met his eyes. "Maybe I will," I said. "But I'll regret it alive. I'll regret it free. And that's more than I've had in 3 years." They took him away. I heard the front door open, then close. The engine started. Drove off. Silence. Not empty silence. Sacred silence, the kind that follows a storm that's finally passed. My legs gave out. I collapsed into my chair. And finally let go. I buried my face in my hands and sobbed. Great, heaving cries from the deepest part of my soul. I cried for the marriage that died. For the man I loved who became someone I feared. For the 3 years I spent shrinking to make him comfortable. For the woman who stayed too long. Kenya stayed with me, wrapped her arms around me as I shook. Evelyn stood nearby, eyes closed, praying softly. For my healing, my strength, my future. Even for Daniel, for his soul, his redemption. And I let her pray. Because even after everything, after the slap, the bruises, the fear, I didn't hate him. I just couldn't love him anymore. Not the man he'd become. The days after were strange. The house felt enormous, echoing with ghosts. Every room held memories now stained with pain. Kenya stayed for a week. Helped me file for divorce. Changed the locks. Packed Daniel's suits, ties, shoes, boxed them in the garage for pickup. The arrest made the news. Atlanta finance executive arrested in domestic assault case. I stayed off social media. But Kenya told me the whispers. She overreacted. Every marriage has rough patches. She should have tried harder. I learned to ignore them. They didn't live my truth. Daniel was charged with simple assault, first offense. Got bail fast. But a restraining order barred him from coming within 500 feet of me. No contact except through lawyers. His firm put him on administrative leave. His reputation, once his pride, was ashes. This time, he burned it himself. I started therapy with Dr. Naomi Wright, a trauma specialist. At first, I just sat and cried. Slowly, words came. She helped me see. I wasn't responsible for his choices. Love couldn't fix what wasn't broken for me, it was broken in him. Leaving wasn't failure. It was survival. I joined a support group, women with stories like mine. In that room, I realized I wasn't alone. We held each other up. Shared scars. Shared strength. And slowly, I began to heal. About 3 months after the arrest, I got a letter from Daniel. He was in court-mandated rehab. Sobriety. Anger management. I'm sorry, he wrote. Truly. I don't expect forgiveness. But you were right. You saved my life. If you hadn't stopped me, I might have kept going until one of us was dead. I read it 3 times. then tucked it in a drawer. Part of me was glad he was getting help. But I couldn't let him back in. Never. That door was closed. Locked. The woman who might have opened that door was gone. The divorce was finalized 6 months after the arrest. I got the townhouse. Daniel didn't contest it. Maybe by then he finally understood the weight of what he'd done. Or maybe he was just too broken to fight. Either way, the house became mine, truly mine. And I began remaking it in my image. I painted the walls soft sage and warm clay, colors that calmed, not constrained. Rearranged the furniture so every room faced the light. Threw out everything that held his energy, his whiskey glasses, his cufflinks, the navy suit he wore the night he hit me. Kept only what brought peace, Nanny's tablecloth, my camera gear, Kenya's framed photo of us at 16, arms slung over each other's shoulders, grinning like the world was ours. I also rebuilt my safety. Kept the Ring doorbell. Added cameras, one in the backyard, one angled at the living room entrance. Installed a smart security system, sensors on every window, every door. New deadbolt. Smart lock control from my phone. Some might call it paranoia. To me, it's sovereignty. This is my space. I decide who enters. About a year after everything, I was ready to live, not just survive. I launched my own photography brand, Lena Matthews Studio. Started teaching workshops for young women in Atlanta's Arts District. Got featured in a local gallery. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not as Daniel's wife, but as myself. I also bought something just for me. A tiny cottage on Tybee Island. 1 bedroom. 1 kitchen. A porch that faces the Atlantic. On weekends, I sit there with black coffee and a Leica in my lap. Listen to waves. Watch gulls slice through salt air. And feel peace, real, quiet, unshaken peace. The kind I once believed was lost forever. I've started dating, slowly, carefully. Nothing serious. Maybe never will be. But it's healing to meet men who listen. Who ask, is this okay? Who understand that trust is earned, not demanded. About 18 months after the divorce, Daniel reached out, through his court-mandated therapist. Requested a supervised meeting. Part of his recovery, he said. I asked Dr. Naomi Wright what she thought. You don't owe him anything, she said. But if closure helps you release the past, it's yours to take. So I agreed. We met at a cafe in Midtown, neutral ground. His therapist sat 2 tables away, close enough to intervene, far enough to give us space. Daniel looked different, thinner, older, eyes clear for the first time in years. No excuses. Just honesty. I'm sorry, he said. I took my brokenness out on you because I didn't know how to fix myself. Losing my job, my reputation, it shattered me. But I used that to justify hurting you. That was never your fault. He told me he was on medication, in AA 3 times a week, therapy twice. I lost everything, my marriage, my career, my home. And I deserved to. I listened. Then I said, thank you for apologizing. Thank you for getting help. But I also told him, we will never be us again. The man you were and the woman I was, those people are gone. What we had is destroyed. There's no rebuilding it. He nodded. I understand, he said. I just hope, someday, you can forgive me. I already have, I replied. Not the kind that forgets. Not the kind that reopens doors. But the kind that releases. That lets go of anger's grip so I can walk forward lighter. I sat with my coffee after he left. And for the first time, I felt free, not just from him, but from the story I'd carried. Healing wasn't about him. It was about me choosing myself, again and again. I was letting it go so I could move forward without carrying it. Today, I'm 33 years old. My face healed. The bruise faded to yellow, then vanished. My lip healed, though if you look closely, there's a tiny scar. Not a mark of what he did to me, but a reminder of what I did for myself. The day I chose to save my own life. I'm not the woman I was before Daniel. Not the quiet twin who believed love meant silence. Not the woman who shrank to make him comfortable. I'm someone new. Stronger. Clearer. Someone who knows her worth. I know that love without respect is just prison with pretty curtains. And that the most important relationship I'll ever have is the one with myself. That breakfast wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. Justice for every woman told he didn't mean it. Justice for every person who thinks love means enduring violence. Justice for everyone who's ever felt trapped in their own home by someone who claimed to love them. I served Daniel a breakfast he never expected. Witnesses. Accountability. Consequences. And I served myself something I'd forgotten I deserved. My life back. My peace back. Myself back. I learned something through all of this. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is refuse to be destroyed. Sometimes, leaving isn't giving up. It's waking up. It's choosing life over loyalty to someone who became your danger instead of your safety. I still live in Atlanta. Still shoot portraits for young artists. Still tend my garden on weekends. But now I do it without fear. No more checking locks 10 times. No more flinching at loud voices. No more wondering what mood someone will be in when they walk through the door. I do it in peace. And that peace, simple, quiet, unshaken, is worth more than any wedding ring, any shared past, any fantasy that someone will change. To anyone watching this who's living what I lived, hear me. You deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve respect. You deserve peace. And you don't have to wait until it gets as bad as it got for me. You can leave now. Ask for help now. Choose yourself now. Please. Choose yourself. What would you have done in my place? Would you have called the police that night? Left years earlier? Planned like I did? Comment below, and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to know how far this message travels. To every woman who needs to hear this. You are not alone. I see you. I was you. And you can survive this. You can more than survive, you can thrive. If this story moved you, if it made you remember your own strength, please hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss stories of survival and courage. Your support means more than you know. It means our stories matter. That women like us matter. On your screen, you'll see other stories. Of people who chose themselves. Who drew a line and said, no more. Who found strength in their darkest hour. Click 1. Watch it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember this. You deserve peace. You don't need permission to choose it. Not from your partner, not from your family, not from anyone. You just need courage. And if you're watching this, if you've made it this far, you already have it. You just need to use it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for bearing witness to my pain and my power. Thank you for being part of my healing. Until the next story, remember. You are worthy. You are strong. And you deserve a life without fear. Choose yourself. Always.